Stephanie, if you could, would you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you, where you're from, and what your titles or specialty is?
Sure. I'm Stephanie Pavlantos, and I live in Ohio. I'm in Stowe, Ohio, a small little town here. And I actually started out as just like a women's Bible study teacher. I actually have taught biology and anatomy and stuff like that because I am a biologist. But it's funny because then I started really enjoying just Bible studies. And so I started teaching women's Bible studies, and then I started writing. And I felt like I needed to maybe get ordained because I was writing so much and writing my own studies. So then I got ordained, and right now I'm actually one of the at a new church plant that we have. I am one of the teachers on we actually meet on Saturday, but Shabbat. So yeah, so I do that. And then but I've led people. I've learned like different types of freedom prayer, which is basically helping people get through strongholds due to different things going on in their lives. But then my husband and I have a ministry that we just help people basically just get through nutrition, understand nutrition, understand what's best for their bodies. That's primarily my husband's thing, but I do help him because I bring in some of the biology. So
Wow, you do a lot.
we do, yes.
You're a teacher, an ordained minister, a writer, and
A podcaster. Actually, I do podcasts as well. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's amazing. Liv, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us your specialty and your title and all that cool stuff? Tell us where you're from.
Sure. My name is Olivia Hairston. I'm from Dunbar, West Virginia. I am a board certified natural wellness practitioner and educator of functional medicine. I usually work in the realms of women's wellness, and I work with a lot of women that have hormone imbalance. So my specialty is definitely with women.
Great. Welcome, Bonnie. Would you introduce yourself and tell us where you're from, what your title and specialties are?
Sure, thank you. And just to kind of go ahead and, take a moment just to say thank you to you for, even opening up the conversation and getting women together in a podcast like this to talk about women's health and spirituality. I love it. And I think that it's a really positive, vibration that kind of sets the tone for many more like opportunities in the future. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Bonnie Swan. I am kind of what I call an economist by day and a yogi by night. So I, work in data analysis and am trying to kind of like find the intersection of yoga analysis and create a pathway for yoga as a socio-emotional learning goal in schools. And so I currently teach and teach yoga at the Folded Leaf locally at a local yoga studio. And I am in the very beginning stages of creating an idea and wanting to start a nonprofit kind of centered around yoga. And then number two, as a woman and a participant in women's circles, I spend a lot of time in women's circles with my teacher, Usha, and I spend time monthly gathering in women's circles and spending time talking about women's monthly cycles and herbalism and all things yoga and and women's health.
Okay, great. That sounds really interesting. And I actually went to West Virginia State with Bonnie. That's where we met. And I know I've been following her adventures on Facebook. And Bonnie, can you tell us some of the places where you have trained or taught or trained or learned, or because some of the places she's been has been fantastic. I've been like so jelly.
You know, I've been gifted so much opportunity in the last 5 years. So I know that you we met kind of shortly before I kind of started on this path of healing. And you know, I started off with my 200-hour training in yoga and got certified as a yoga instructor. And I spent a month in Costa Rica. And so I spent time on the permaculture farm in Costa Rica where we were staying in shipping containers and we were disconnected from any type of technology. We were, taking a kind of spiritual payment or a diet break from meat, coffee, and dairy. And so it was a chance to really kind of like spend a month in deep self-inquiry. And so, of course, after you go through something like that, you come back home. And after this big kind of expansion, there's a contraction. And you kind of like end up going into, your previous patterns and habits and life. And so it's been a 5-year journey of kind of starting there. I went back to Costa Rica in 2022 and became certified as a yin instructor, which is yin yoga is kind of centered around the Chinese meridian theory. And so it's working on opening up, energetic channels in the body and just nourishing and supporting the nervous system to kind of slow down. And after that, again, I come back home. West Virginia is my home. I love it. I go into these containers of growth, and then you come back in and you get to witness yourself as you come back in, to your everyday life and see where you can kind of bring in some of the teachings, but also continue to dive into understanding yourself. And then most recently this year, I went to a trauma-informed leadership conference where I got to spend time with women talking about somatics and energetic work to try and, support healing in a capacity of getting kind of stagnant energy out of the body. And I spent time also in talks and among different leaders who were talking about, the importance of women's circles and reconnecting to this, community essence, because as women, it works so much better when you have a community to support you as you're going through these cycles,
That's so true. And I've got to say, I can see how you've become a different person since the day we first met. And I mean, you were beautiful then, you're beautiful now, but you are putting off this wonderful positive energy, and I'm just eating it up. And
thank you.
I
It comes from a lot of like deep, really crazy, like inner, work.
well, I definitely admire what you're doing, because I don't think I could give up all technology and meat and dairy. Yeah, more power to you, girl. I don't think I could do it. The whole podcast is for women and self-care. What does self-care mean, and why is it so important? I mean, we can go through life and not take a bubble bath and get stuff done. Explain to everybody what self-care means to you and why it is so crucial.
So for me, like many women that I've talked to, maybe you can relate, you end up taking on so much responsibility in this nurturing kind of position, this caregiving position for your family, for your community, for people in your work. It's so important, to dive into these spaces of self-care, because if you want to be of deep service to others, it starts with you, and it starts with taking care of yourself so that you have that kind of built up energy and support within yourself, kind of like what Stephanie was talking about with this virtuous woman actually meaning the woman of strength. Like having that strength comes from being able to take care of yourself, in my opinion. And for me, self-care really looks like slowing down and really taking the time to notice what's going on in your body, to notice what's going on in your mind. And that takes a certain level of kind of commitment, to taking that time away from technology, and maybe just taking, that 30 minutes or an hour on your yoga mat or in the bath, but without anything, around. Like maybe even like we like to take a book with us, but what if instead of putting more knowledge in, we take that time and just really get stuff out through like journaling, and even just sitting in silence for a period of time. Self-care for me is really just, number one, slowing down, getting that time in silence, wherever you can, and getting that time to get stuff out, because we spend so much time learning, trying to connect with people, trying to, keep up in our work duties, our family duties, our hobbies, and so then it becomes this kind of theme of where we're just bringing so much in, and we're not giving ourselves time to get it out through, even movement, like a movement practice, like through yoga, or getting outside and taking a walk. Doing it without the phone or without another person sometimes can be a form of self-care for me.
Those are amazing tips. In fact, while you were talking, I was literally just thinking my idea of unwinding, or just chilling, is either having a glass of wine and writing, or laying in bed and turning on the TV. So that way my body's at least at rest, and my mind's not running from this problem to that problem constantly. At least if the TV's on, it's keeping my brain from stressing over this or that. But yeah, I can see how just laying there with the TV on is still not letting me find me or realize what I'm actually thinking or get in tune with my body. So those are very, very good tips. I like that. Who else wants to jump in?
I actually started self-care for myself. Believe it or not, I teach self-care, self-care, self-care to my clients all the time. Like I push it, push it, push it, push it. But I didn't actually start my own journey in self-care until like probably the last 6 months. And the reason that I started that was because the energy in my household was lopsided. Lots of times as women, when we get into the nurturing role, it's been conditioned for us that that also means control, and strong means control. And so, because I'm a very type A personality, I had to control everything that was going on in my house. And just like Bonnie said, what that resulted in was burnout for me, like major fatigue. And it resulted in me taking on all of this responsibility that I was supposed to be sharing with myself. And it didn't give him a chance to leave. And in fact, it actually emasculated him because it took away his power as a man to be a man. And it put me in masculine energy 24/7, which turned me into a gnarly, raging hormonal machine. And it literally broke me down to the point that I couldn't function anymore. I owned a business. I sold my half of it. That was the first step. It was the hardest thing that I ever have done in my entire life. But I sold my half of it because it just wasn't, it was too much. I wanted to be at home with my kids. I wanted to be soft. I wanted to be loving. I wanted to be kind. And I could not do that with all of these responsibilities everywhere hanging over my head. And so I started to implement a self care regimen that I realize everyone may not be able to do. But if you can get to this point, oh my gosh, is it freeing? I began no alarm clock. None. I've always been an alarm clock person. I've always been somebody that's like, got to get up, got to get rolling, even if it's 5:30 in the morning. I'm not a morning person. I've spent my whole life dealing and battling with the fact that I'm not a morning person. So I was like, hey, babe, can you take the kids to school? Because the 6 a.m. wake up time just is really not doing it for me. If I'm going to stay up till midnight trying to make sure everybody's lunches are packed and backpacks are together and get some of my work done, like for instance, I was working the other night on something that I'm creating until 12 o'clock. I'm a creator. I'm truly a creative. So I should be working from my emotional space, not my logical space anyway. And so I'm working till midnight. That's fine. I love it. I'm typing, I'm doing graphics, I'm happy with it. And then I don't get up till 10 o'clock the next morning. I lay in bed for an hour and just scroll TikTok because it's fun. Like you, London, I will seriously lay there with a glass of wine or watch some Supernatural reruns on TV because it's just something to take my mind off of the things. And I started implementing these little pieces one step at a time until I've now created this routine where I wake up very slowly. I'm not rushing myself or jarring myself out of bed. I have my cup of coffee. I'm a way better woman and mother because of this. I'm more calm. I'm not screaming at everyone. And the household duties are split. We don't do gender roles in here. If the laundry's dirty, wash it. If the dishes are dirty, wash it. Now, I'm not mowing the grass or taking out the trash, but we do share equally what we do in the house and the raising of the children. And it has made the dynamic in my relationship with my partner better. It's made my relationship with myself better. And so I do take a bubble bath every once in a while. I do, have that glass of wine or do those little things that we think that really don't matter, but they do. And then I move on to the bigger things like gingerly getting out of bed, waking up with the sun and letting that wake me up instead of the alarm clock. And those are just a couple of instances of things that I do for myself and how much of a difference that's truly made in my life with everyone around me.
That's a very good point. And in fact, my husband and I kind of got into a little tiff over finances. And I'm like, I feel like I'm doing everything, you won't help. And he's like, I don't even see the bills. I don't even see my paycheck. Everything just goes in the bank and you take care of it all. So yeah, good point. He can't help if I won't let him help. Good point. Stephanie?
Yeah, I think they both mentioned great tips, and I don't want to overlap what they say because I mean, and I have like Dr. Liv. I mean, I've gotten comfortable with I stay up later, so now it's 8 o'clock, 8:30, and I just for now, I mean, I don't beat myself up because I'm not up when my husband gets up. I'm just like, no, this I'm on a different rhythm, and I feel better when I sleep a little longer in the morning. And so and when you have children, I mean, mine are older now, so when they're young, you don't do anything for yourself. It's all about group activities. And I think the best thing that we can do as moms, or it doesn't matter whether you have children or not, but especially moms, is do something that your children and your husband don't do. And if you don't have a job, if you're a stay-at-home mom, that's often difficult to do. So for me, I took up, I started writing just probably 10 or 15 years ago. But then I started going to conferences with other women, and I started doing and writing groups. No one else in my family does that. So it was me and these other ladies, and then I took up photography during COVID because it was something I could do to get out and do something. And no one else, again, it's not anyone else's thing. It's my thing alone. And so I would just add to what they said, find a hobby that is yours and yours alone to let you do and create, whether take a class if you'd rather learn. But doing something that's just for you and that you're not sharing it with everyone else in the family, and you're not even sharing it with your husband. I mean, I sometimes even just take a small vacation with my sisters, or friend. I'll just go. And that has helped me. And it doesn't have to be a week or 2 weeks. It can be a weekend, if you don't have the time to do something longer, some kind of longer engagement. But, that helps too. I think that just helps being able to laugh with friends, girlfriends, just be able to laugh and have fun is self-care, because you're just relaxing and you're just being who you are. Because I think we can be different people with different people, right? I'm sometimes different with my husband than I am my best friend, or I'm different with my children than I am my friend or my sisters. So it's getting to explore all parts of you, because we wear many hats. So I think that's important.
Yes, very good tips. And honestly, I think maybe that's kind of what this podcast is doing for me. It's giving me a chance to meet new people and open myself up to different viewpoints. And yeah, so good tips. Okay, so when we talk about self-care, I mean, there's multiple categories, but because we can only help with one thing at a time, let's focus on what I consider the top three. And I may be wrong on that. My most top three would be 1 physical, 2 mental, and 3 spiritual. So focusing on the physical, I mean, we really put our bodies through the mill. I mean, we're running around, and especially moms, and especially moms with sports age children who are playing multiple sports. You've got to be at this place and you got to be at that place. You still got to be home to cook dinner. You still got to be at work or what have you. And a lot of times we don't have time to cook dinner. So we're doing fast food. We're not getting enough sleep. We're running ourselves in the ground. So what are your tips and advice on that type of self-care? And, you know, in my last podcast for moms, we were talking about, you know, just grab that 5 or 10 minutes every day. If it's to take a bath or to walk around the block or what have you. A tip my mom used to give me when I was getting really stressed out was, if you have to, Tammy, just go in the bathroom, close the door, and scream as loud as you can. At least release that energy, and then walk back out recomposed. Do those 5 or 10 minute little tricks throughout the day. Do they help versus a 30 or 40 minute or an hour long rigorous exercise or routine that you do 2 or 3 days a week? Do those little tiny moments help that much? And if so, what are some other ideas for those little quick stress reliefs that you guys may have?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Anytime that you can take for yourself to break away, and like if you're noticing you're feeling dysregulated in that sense that you know, like you're tense, your shoulders are hunched up, or you notice your chest is kind of like you know, tight, or you feel your heartbeat racing, you know, be it maybe you just had 1 too many cups of coffee and you realize it, like all of a sudden, like I just did 1 more cup of coffee than I should have, and now I gotta live with it and I gotta go with it. Taking 5 minutes to get out of it, to, if you need to move. If you're, you know, in a state where you need to scream and you can't, you know, that's unfortunate, and you kind of have to be in a special place to do that. But what helps me a lot is really just trying to find a moment outside. You know, if you can get outside and take a moment to breathe some fresh air, it can just do wonders for you. And then number 2, this breathwork practice has changed my life. I use Brahmari pranayam. It's called the honeybee breath, and it's a regulating breathwork practice that can help to bring you into a parasympathetic state. And I've been on the back of a motorcycle where we went down, and, you know, I went through this breathwork practice and like really seen how I can come out of a panic state and come back into a regulated state. And, you know, I use this breathwork probably every single day. Like, and so Brahmari pranayam is essentially just taking a pause. And so you can take a nice cleansing breath. If you want to do it with me, I'll guide you through it. You can even close your eyes just to kind of notice how it feels in your body. And so you take a nice cleansing breath, inhale, sigh it out. And then so on this inhale, you bring your tongue to the roof of the mouth, and on the exhale, you hum. For the full extension of the breath, as long as it takes to kind of get that out. And you really notice what it feels like on that bottom of the exhale, you know, taking that pause and then taking a few deep breaths after that. Like that just takes a couple minutes, and it can bring me out of a state of, you know, kind of over caffeination. It can bring me out of a state of panic. It can really bring me back into my body, because I feel the vibration, you know, I feel the humming, and I know that it's worked in the past.
I did it. That did feel good. It was relaxing.
So physical, mental, spiritual, these are three things that I do with my clients all the time, everything that we do through coaching. So physical, I don't mean to go all Dr. Live on you guys, but straight up, you have to change what you're eating. You have to change what you're eating, you have to change what you're drinking, and you got to move. That movement does not have to be 45 minutes of cardio on a treadmill, because I'm going to be quite frankly honest. You can look at me and tell I'm not doing 45 minutes of cardio on a treadmill. That is not my thing. I don't like that. What I do like is, though, finding easy ways to get it in. So I love walking with my other sports moms at track practice. My kids are running around the track. There is nothing else for me to do other than run my mouth. So why not run my mouth while I'm walking around that track? We're still talking about all the same stuff we're talking about, and we don't have to walk fast. Our goal is 2 miles. That's what we want to get in, regardless of what's happening. We just want to get 2 miles in, and we're still talking, and we're laughing, and we're having a good old time. Changing the protocol of our nutrition is number one, in my opinion. A simple, easy way to do that. Instead of eliminating and taking away all the yummy things that you love, let's just add in more of the things that are good. Let's add in some more fresh fruit. Let's add in some more fresh vegetables. Let's add in some more lean meats. Best way to do this, 1 day a week, whole family at dinner. It doesn't have to be extravagant and crazy. One good way that we've done this with my kids is we go to farmers market and I let them pick out what it is they're going to eat. And now my kids eat weird, crazy stuff like dragon fruit because they think it looks cool and they want to cut it up and see that it's different colors and they like it. And so I really incorporate my family into what we do when it comes to nutrition and getting that body moving and working with the physical. With the mental, mindfulness is always great. Breath work, absolute, yes, 100. Bonnie, I love it. Breath work is one of my favorite things. Because I'm, again, type A personality. I go over the top sometimes. I get very overwhelmed. I'm a huge overthinker, and I just need to bring myself back down, because if I don't, I'm going to get too overwhelmed, and then I'm going to start going into my hysterics that I don't want to get to. I don't want to get to that point. And so it's an everyday battle. I will say that. If you're trying to make those type of changes in your life, it's something you got to work at. We didn't get here or to the space overnight. So we have to work with ourselves for a while to get to where we are at a point where we might not have to think so hard about doing those things. And then on the spiritual tip, same situation. Just finding some spiritual practice for yourself that works for you, that fits what you believe, that fits the way you want to feel, and fits the direction that you want to go. Those are my top 3 things anytime we're working with any type of spirituality. I want to feel comfortable, I want to feel loved, and I want to feel peace when I am doing whatever that spiritual practice is. So for physical, mental, spiritual, that would be my guiding advice for you.
Stephanie, I'm going to ask you to jump in here now, because I do know, because we are talking about the physical and fast foods and stuff like that.
Right.
And I do know that you said that you all have a nutritious program or something. So
right.
You want to jump in now?
Sure. I think the best thing we can do for our bodies is eat well. It's just, for me, now I was at the age where I was starting to have some gallbladder issues and whatnot. And so it was more radical. And I think that it's way better to start early than to get to the point where you have to do it. So that was why, probably my own regret that I didn't start earlier, because my daughter is 26 years old, and she and I have gone hiking, and she is tuckered out before I am, because I have changed my diet. I have incorporated hiking and things like that I enjoy so much. And I can literally outdo her. I can literally go longer and faster than she can, because I have cleaned up my body. I take vitamins and minerals and things that help in the nutrition of my body. So, I work on cleanses, even with, whether it's, liver or gallbladder or whatever. I still have my gallbladder, even though I was having issues, because I learned how to clean it out. I learned how to do stuff like that. Balancing your hormones is, for women, is like way up there too. If we live with crazy hormones, we're just never going to be happy. Nothing can, you're always miserable, really, I think. So, getting regular checkups to help keep things balanced and keep your body in good health is just top for me. And for me, at least, it all began with my diet, changing my diet. Now, I got rid of sugar in 2015, and I don't eat sugar at all. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't eat fruit or that kind of natural sugar. I do, but I don't eat cane sugar. I brought in totally a different way of using different sweeteners that were low glycemic or zero glycemia. So I brought in different ways and different desserts so that I'm still satisfied. My sweet tooth is satisfied, but it's better for me. So that's my major way, I guess.
Okay, great tips. And yes, Liv, you were talking about the doing the farmers market when my kids were younger. I used to try to take them to one, not necessarily farmers market, but I would let them go through the produce aisle and I would tell them that they had to pick out at least one vegetable or one piece of fruit that we were going to buy enough for the whole family to share with. And I even did like once a month or so for a little while, I would go and I would just get different types of fruits or vegetables and I would blindfold them and cut them up and they would have to try to guess what each one was, just to make it fun, to help encourage them to eat healthier. Of course, my oldest daughter, she's moved out and has a baby of her own, and she's doing the whole mom thing, and I'm proud of her because she's cooking and she's trying to incorporate veggies. And they were down here last night and anyway, they were down here the other night and I cooked dinner. And one of the things that I was fixing was broccoli. And my 2-year-old granddaughter was like, broccoli. She got all excited. And I was like, oh, that makes me so proud. My 2-year-old granddaughter loves broccoli. But bringing back to, and Stephanie, you were mentioning, don't let yourself get to that point to where you have to go backwards. That was kind of a good segue because that was my next question. Do you have tips for people who have gotten to that point to where they just don't even want to get out of bed, or they're overweight, or having medical issues, high blood pressure, or what have you, that their bones hurt, their knees hurt, they don't think they can do the walking or the exercise? What kind of tips do you have for them to help them start to regain energy, to start to ease into a more active lifestyle? What type of tips do you have for those type of people who are not running around with their, like chickens with their heads cut off, but just literally vegging out or couch potatoes?
I think the biggest thing that we have to remember is two major things, and they're very simple, because we're the ones that make this hard. It's our brains that make this hard. Find something you like to do. I don't care what it is. Find something that you like to do. Like, for instance, I'll go back to the working out on a treadmill. That has never been my thing. There is not anything in this world that's going to make me excited about that. Do I know that I need to exercise? 100%. But that is not the way that I'm going to do it, because I'm going to begrudgingly look at that thing every single day and finally just get to the point where I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. I hate it. You have to find something you like. So I encourage you to look at other avenues. If you're into paid classes, trying something like Zumba or yoga, something you can do in a group. Take friends, do it with somebody else. If you don't want to do that, because there's a lot of people that don't want other people to see them working out, find something that's free on YouTube, or anything like that you can bring up on your TV and do in the privacy of your own home where people aren't looking at you, if that's a thing for you. And another thing is, keep it super simple. Don't go so far out the box that you just can't keep up with what you're trying to do. Like, again, walking, super simple. And it may not even be something that's on the tip of cardio. It could be, now you've figured out through food that you love to cook. Well, now you're saying, if you're a creator, can be creating all these amazing healthy meals out of the food that you've learned how to like because your palate's changed. And now you're an adult and we're not eating chicken nuggets and macaroni and cheese all the time. But just keep it simple and find things you like to do. Eventually, you're going to find something that clicks for you, even if you're that couch potato. You will. I know for a fact, when I had my son, I gained 55 pounds and I was devastated. And after I had him, I went through very, very terrible postpartum depression. I didn't want to do anything. Like, at all. And it was really hard because I was in this new body. I had no idea who I was looking at when I looked at myself in the mirror. I wasn't happy with what I saw. And I really just had to kind of, again, keep it simple and find something I like. And over time, I stopped paying attention. Well, and I guess that's another tip. Don't pay attention to the number on the scale. Like, don't worry about that. What we want to worry about is, are we healthy? Do we feel good? When you can take that and that mentality and work with that every day, you're going to start to see the numbers fall off the scale naturally because you're not worried about that thing. You're worried about the thing you like to do. You're worried about the thing that's keeping it simple. And nowadays, again, if you're into technology, there's all of these apps and a plethora of different things that you can use to help you along the way that make it simple for you. Just keep it simple and don't make it hard, and find something you really like to do.
And what about to increase energy? Do you have any tips on that?
I'm really into like natural things. So obviously, please stay away from monsters or anything like that. This new Prime drink that's out, please don't drink that. It has very bad things in it. Um, Finding that through natural food remedies would be the first, but there are a couple of supplements that we can use for energy, such as B12. Using ashwagandha at night before we go to sleep in order to get a good night's sleep and feel rested when we wake up the next morning. Actually, contrary to popular belief, lay off the coffee, stay off the caffeine, switch it for an herbal tea. Fine, yeah. No, I'm not saying get rid of coffee. Maybe switch to half calf, maybe go to decaf. Still drink a cup of coffee, that's fine. But I would incorporate some herbal teas, specifically with herbs, because you can, again, be so creative. And I know you're a creator, so I feel like kitchen wise, that would work for you too. We can mix different herbs, make different concoctions. There's a plethora of different things, tinctures, a million different things that you can use for that. But energy, honestly, for me, doesn't necessarily come in that way. I get it in waves. And so I ride that wave. There's going to be days where I just don't feel like it. And guess what? I don't, because that's my body's way of telling me, sit it down for a while, just relax, be lazy, be comfortable with not doing anything, not moving, not doing anything. And I promise you, that rest that you're giving your body and listening to your body's then going to reward you with a boost of energy. And not only that, a boost of serotonin. So I would not, force things, but yeah, definitely stay away from synthetic chemically things and go with the natural and rest when you need to rest.
Yes, I definitely agree. Just to add that. I mean, I do bet B12, and well, I've always been, I didn't even know growing up that I was very deficient until I started having all these symptoms, and then the doctor told me your vitamin B levels are like really, really low. And so now it's what I do every day. I take my vitamin Bs because I'm a biologist, and I know she probably knows this too. Olivia knows this, but you know, every cell in our body needs to make energy, and the way it does it is through vitamin B. And so that's completely natural. But caffeine and sugar, they kind of go up and down. So like when they bring you down, you crash. So keep your diet level, but also exercising does, like, and she said, just don't make it hard. Walk around the block, do whatever you need to, but exercise will increase your energy. And it's okay to be a couch potato a day a week, to when your body needs. I mean, I agree with everything she said because it's so true. That's how we do things in my own home. So yeah, it's good.
Okay, well, yeah, the coffee thing I'm a little sad about because I will admit, the husband gets up and yes, I'm the creator. So, and I keep those late hours, but instead of going to bed at 12 or at midnight or 1, I'm usually up till 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. But in all fairness, my husband doesn't go into work until 1:30 in the afternoon. He's not coming home until 2 o'clock in the morning. So, and my daughter, she's literally getting ready to turn 18 in a few days. And today she finished her last final, so she's done with school. And so with her working, she's hardly ever here. So yeah, I literally sit in the office all night long writing or playing on the internet or whatever. But yeah, when we do wake up, he'll wake up first. and then he'll fix a pot of coffee, and he has usually most likely already drank most of that whole pot before I even wake up. So when I wake up, he goes in and he pours me the last cup or so, and then makes another pot, kisses me, and then leaves. And then by, I don't know, say 3 or 4 o'clock, I've already gone through an entire pot of coffee. And that's all I've drank all day. And a lot of times I hadn't even eaten anything yet. You know, sometimes I don't even eat until 4 or 5 o'clock. But I'll suck the coffee down. I do buy half calf. It's half decaf. But I can tell when I've had too much. You mentioned that last cup. I should have, yeah, I get jittery. I start to get the shakes. So yeah. Bonnie, would you like to add?
Yeah. Just to kind of maybe come back to this like idea. I know like personally, like I have a degenerative nerve disease. And so I have kind of like these flare-ups sometimes where like I really don't want to move as much and I don't want to get out of bed. And so for anybody who goes into those phases sometimes, or for anybody who might listen, like if they can't move, maybe because of some disability, it's harder to move. There's so much that you can do as far as like somatic work, these small kind of like activations of your muscles that you can be sitting and you can just kind of like start to go like, well, I'm just gonna like flex my toes, forward and back. I'm going to work on some like thumbs up and downs to kind of like move my wrists and make sure my joints are lubricated. I can do some circles with my arms, or, start to make some ankle circles. These little movements end up helping you so much, just as far as getting that kind of like a joint lubrication and movement in the joints. And then if you are comfortable moving your spine, I recommend 3 types of stretches every day for your spine. Like if you can do it first thing in the morning, great, because this is going to support you before you actually start getting up and using your body. But getting, your twists in on both sides is really important. And I usually would like, take an inhale as you twist, and then you can exhale and come back. Also getting, a stretch where you're getting this kind of like pulling the neck back and then curving the spine is really important. And then getting these side stretches where you're opening up the side body. Those 3 types of movement can help the spine just kind of support you in your day-to-day life, so that you're not kind of like pushing through and overextending yourself before you really even woke your spine up.
Okay, well, that makes sense. And I imagine it helps opening your breathing better and everything by doing the stretches.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, if you're getting more oxygen, then you're going to feel better too, right?
Yeah. In the yogic philosophy, we kind of call it the prawn, this life force energy that's in you. And like if you start to get into breath work really heavily, like you can start to work with like these retention practices where you're starting to almost like slow the breath down, and you notice at the bottom of the exhale and you take a pause before you like take in that next breath. And it gives you kind of a different level of like connection with your body, where you're starting to kind of really slow down and listen, to what your body is saying, because as my teacher Usha always says, if you have pain in your body, it's usually your body saying, pay attention inside now.
There you go. When you're hurting, your body is screaming, please practice some self-care. Okay, well, which is yeah, and you're talking about the breathing and everything. And I'll be honest with you, I have COPD, which is one thing that makes it difficult for me to do too much vigorous exercise because I can't breathe. But that also brings me to my next question, which is, do you have tips for physical health, such as, and you kind of touched on this already, for people who may have issues with like arthritis? Is there tricks to help ease that pain and push through it, should you push through it, of arthritis, something like that? tips for somebody who has COPD, or even people who have habits like smoking or addictions like drugs or alcohol? Do you have tips that could help with the afflictions that people may be facing, such as disease or habits or addictions?
Yeah. You know, having kind of like a disease in the body, you know, because it is something. I was diagnosed at the age of 10. And so essentially my right foot is kind of deformed a bit. It's smaller and curves in, and it causes some imbalances in the right side of my body. And so this was at the age of 10 I was diagnosed, and at the same time, like, my dad had passed away not too long before, so there was chaos, like, you know, my mom trying to kind of raise me. So I really didn't know about this disease until I was probably 26, when I was finally like, you know, I should probably, like, you know, really figure this out. I was just like pushing through life and like going. So I will always come back to it. Like, when you start to slow down, be it cut back 1 cup of coffee per day, when you start to cut back maybe 1 cigarette a day, or you start to, like Liv said, just bringing in like these new, you know, foods here and there, like, I feel like that's where the magic happens, when you start to just like explore, you know, these little changes. You can see, you know, a big difference over time, because it's not like a fast track. We're not trying to get to the finish line of, you know, ultimate health. It's kind of like an exploration over our life, like how we change over time. And so, you know, slowing down and just cutting back a little bit at a time. And I like to call it, oh gosh, what do I call it? Harm reduction. Like, you know, I'm in the I'm kind of like not doing harm reduction. I'm in like kind of a bit of a diet cleanup right now. And so this is like day 5 of no coffee, and I've been cutting out red meat and pork for the week, just taking kind of a week diet reset to kind of let my nervous system have a break from the coffee, to let my body have a break from, you know, digesting some of these heavier foods that I, you know, bring into my diet. And it's really hard on the body to like go through those really intense cold turkey type diets. And it comes with a lot of like mental, you know, chaos as well, that you have to be prepared for when you kind of go into it like that. But I think it can be really, I think they both can be really good, you know, just depending on what you're doing. I'm doing this because I'm doing it as kind of like a test for myself, so to speak, to get this reset. And I think the last thing I would say is, you know, with arthritis, like, I have some early arthritis in my right side of my body, and chiropractic care has been, you know, super helpful, because it started to kind of let my spine get reset, cutting out really, you know, acidic things. Tomatoes are really triggering and inflaming.
Oh,
For
really? I
Mhm.
didn't know that. Interesting. So citrate foods can flare that up.
You know,
Interesting.
I'm
I
not
think
100% certain, you know, as far as if it's citric foods, but I know like certain acidic foods, like for me, like tomatoes, tomato sauce, and salsa will just like, I'll always have inflammation after that.
interesting.
Yeah.
Stephanie, I know you're going to have to jump off here, but do you want to add something to this particular topic before you go?
Sure. When you talk about exercising, being in the water is best when you have a lot of joint pain and a lot of pain like that. That water is, you know, you're not putting weight on your body, so it helps that way. Also, I think something we haven't talked about is water. Drinking water is so hugely important for our bodies. Every single system in your body uses water. And, you know, when we drink coffee all day, we drink sodas all day, we drink everything that is is basically caffeinated, it just pushes the water out of us. And, every system in your body needs water. And the rule that we use is half your body weight in water. 150-pound person needs about 75 ounces of water in their body, because it's individual. It's not just like a straight 8 ounces, for, what is it, 6, they used to tell us 6 glasses of 8 ounces, but it's more about your weight and your needs of your own body. But I think that's just one of the things that we don't talk about much, the importance of water. So but yeah, the stretching and everything. And can you repeat, am I answering your question? Because I kind of forgot what the question was, but sorry.
Because if you had specific tips
Okay.
for people who had like afflictions, like illnesses or addictions or something.
And that's right. Thank you. But I think what Bonnie was saying, there are certain foods that are very inflammatory. If you have inflammatory issues, which most people do, because even inflammatory issues are what really ends up killing us. Our heart gets inflamed. It doesn't react well to that. So the inflammatory issues are a huge problem for us, and especially in our culture. And so lemons and limes, those kinds of acidic foods, are actually become very alkaline when they come in, when you digest them. Tomatoes are not that kind of food, so they can be more acidic in your body. Sugar is very acidic for your body. It makes you acidic, which makes your body have to work harder. A lot of it's moderation, and I guess that's the best word I could use, because most people aren't going to go cold turkey in any one thing, but moderation, corn, stuff like that. Those are good vegetables. I grew up on a farm and I ate corn all my life, but yet it's very inflammatory. So it's going back to diet, going back to finding out inflammatory foods, and kind of bringing those down, your intake of those, bringing that down so that your body can recover. And I believe our bodies were meant to heal ourselves. They are meant to heal themselves but if we don't give it good food, we're just not going to heal. And so
are there specific foods or specific supplements that somebody can take if they're coming from a healing process, say like they're healing from COVID, or they've given up, they're recovering from drug use or something like that?
Right.
Is there certain foods or
all the vitamins? The problem is, and I won't make this long, but a lot of our soils don't have the right minerals in it, and you need minerals to activate vitamins. Okay. So minerals like magnesium, calcium, selenium, zinc, those are good things for your body. So they need to be mixed in with vitamins so that you have the proper nutrition for your body. But vitamin C's, it does a whole host of things, for your body, including help keep you healthy, help keep you from colds. Vitamin A actually protects the cell from viruses, so that it puts a layer of protection around your cell, and viruses can't get into the cell. So things like that. Vitamin B help your energy. Every cell needs it. Zinc, every cell needs it. Those kinds of things, as you look it up. I mean, just like, what vitamins do I need? All of them. We just need all of them. So
let me ask you this: these multi, like 1 a day type,
they're not usually enough for your body, because
yeah,
it's just not usually enough. Like, those are just to keep bad things from happening. But if you really want to help your body heal, you need larger amounts, and you can find those amounts. I take 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day, because we need more than 60 milligrams that is on a multivitamin. Now, because I have a vitamin B, there's a thing called methylation. My body doesn't methylate vitamin B, so I take methylated vitamin B. I take other things to help my digestive system so it can be absorbed. And so it's really like going to, I think Dr. Liv is a functional are you a doctor, but you're functional And you really need, that's like what I went to help me find out what my body needed. And even did some genetic testing to find out where things were not quite right. So
Okay.
it was very eye-opening, but I found out a lot about my body and why I don't methylate vitamin B and different things. And so that was very helpful. And so functional physicians, functional nurses, medical care is really, really good for you. So
Okay. I have drank a pot of coffee today and I have a bottle of water. So I could really use a potty break right now. Okay, so we're going to take a little break and we'll be right back.